Park Jin-woo woke up before the sun, like he did every morning for the past 5 years. He was the commander of HFY Colony. But that was just a fancy title for the man who kept 3,000 people alive on a rock floating at the edge of nowhere. The coffee maker in his small apartment made terrible sounds, but it still worked, just like everything else in this forgotten place. He walked to his window and looked out at the mining fields where giant machines were already digging into the red soil. The morning shift workers moved between the equipment like tiny ants. Lee Min-ho was probably already down in Tunnel 7, checking the crystal formations that kept their small economy running. Kim Yuna would be in the medical center preparing for another day of treating cuts and broken bones from mining accidents. HFY Colony sat on a planet that nobody wanted. The soil was hard, the weather was boring, and the only valuable thing here were some crystals that barely paid for the fuel to ship them back to Earth. Most days Jin-woo wondered why anyone had built a colony here in the first place. Then he remembered that desperate people will go anywhere for a chance at a better life. The colony looked like a small town that someone had dropped onto an alien world. Low buildings made from local stone stretched along dusty streets. Children played between the houses while their parents worked in the mines or maintained the equipment that kept everyone alive. The community center stood in the middle of town where people gathered every evening to share meals and stories. Jin-woo put on his uniform and walked outside. The air tasted like dust and metal, but after 5 years he had gotten used to it. The morning was quiet, except for the sound of mining equipment and the voices of people starting their day. He nodded to Mrs. Choi, who was hanging laundry outside her house. She smiled and waved back, just like she did every morning at the command center. Choi Sanho was already working on the power grid. The young engineer had magic hands when it came to fixing broken machines, which was good because everything in the colony was always breaking down. The buildings were old, the equipment was older, and replacement parts took months to arrive from Earth. Sanho looked up from his work when Jin-woo entered. "Good morning, Commander," he said, wiping grease from his hands. "The main generator made funny noises again last night, but I think I fixed it. We should get maybe 6 more months before it needs major repairs." Jin-woo nodded and sat at his desk. The daily reports were waiting for him. Production numbers, equipment status, supply requests, and the weekly message from Earth Command that basically said, "Keep doing what you're doing and try not to die." The government back home had bigger problems than one small mining colony. Lee Min-ho knocked on the door and entered carrying a data pad. He was the head of mining operations and probably knew more about the planet than anyone else. His hands were permanently stained from years of handling crystal deposits, and his face showed the lines of someone who spent most of his time underground. "Commander, we found something interesting in the deep tunnels," he said, setting the data pad on Jin-woo's desk. "The crystal formation in Sector 12 is much larger than we thought. It might be worth enough to upgrade some of our equipment." Jin-woo looked at the numbers and felt a small spark of hope. Maybe they could buy a new medical scanner for Yuna, or replace some of the ancient mining drills that broke down every few weeks. The colony survived by finding just enough valuable crystals to pay for basic supplies. Kim Yuna arrived at the command center just as Min-ho was. Leaving, she carried her medical bag and had the tired look of someone who had been up all night. The colony doctor was only 28, but she had more experience treating injuries than doctors twice her age. Working in a mining colony meant dealing with accidents every day. "We need to talk about medical supplies," she said, sitting across from Jin-woo's desk. "I used the last of the antibiotics on Park Sung-min after his accident yesterday. The next supply ship is not due for 6 weeks, and we have barely enough medicine for normal problems." This was the reality of life at HFY Colony. Everything had to be planned months in advance because help was so far away. The nearest human settlement was 3 weeks away by the fastest ship. Earth was even farther, and the government there treated the colony like an afterthought. Jin-woo made notes on his computer and promised to send an emergency request for medical supplies. He knew it would take weeks to get approval, and more weeks for the supplies to arrive, but what else could he do? The people of HFY Colony had learned to survive with less than they needed. Outside the command center, life in the colony continued at its usual pace. Children walked to the small school where One teacher handled all the grades workers headed to their jobs in the mines or the processing plants. Families planned their days around the work schedules that kept the colony running. The colony had no military base, no defense systems, and no weapons except for some old mining explosives. Earth Command classified Xinhua as having zero strategic value, which meant no protection and no backup if trouble came. The nearest military base was so far away that radio messages took hours to reach them, but the people of Xinhua Colony had something that military reports could not measure. They had learned to depend on each other. When Minho's equipment broke down, Sunho dropped everything to fix it. When Yuna needed help in the medical center, people volunteered without being asked. When families faced hard times, their neighbors shared food and supplies. Jinwoo spent his morning reviewing maintenance schedules and supply requests. The work was boring but necessary. Someone had to keep track of everything from air filters to mining permits. The government required endless paperwork for a colony that most people had forgotten existed. At noon, he walked through the colony, checking on different work areas. The mining operations were running smoothly despite equipment that should have been replaced years ago. The processing plant was turning raw crystals into refined products that would eventually be shipped to Earth. The power plant was making its usual whirring noises but still providing electricity. In the community center, people were eating lunch together like they did every day. The cook was serving stew made from vegetables grown in the colonies, small greenhouse and meat from the protein processors. Children sat with their parents, talking about school and playing simple games. This was what Jinwoo fought to protect every day. Not just the buildings and equipment, but the community that 3,000 people had built together. They had created something valuable on this forgotten world, a place where everyone knew their neighbors and people helped each other through hard times. As the afternoon continued, Jinwoo returned to his office to finish the daily paperwork. The reports would be sent to Earth, where bureaucrats would file them away without reading them. The supply requests would be processed slowly while the colony made do with less than they needed. Evening came with its usual routine. People finished their work and gathered in the community center for dinner and conversation. Children played games while adults discussed the small problems and victories of daily life. The mining crews shared stories about interesting discoveries underground. Jinwoo stood on his small balcony looking at the red sunset. Over the mining fields, tomorrow would bring the same routine: more maintenance problems, supply shortages, and the endless challenge of keeping people alive so far from home. But tonight the colony was peaceful and safe. He did not know that their quiet life was about to change forever. Somewhere in the darkness of space, alien ships were moving toward their world, drawn by intelligence reports that described Xinhua Colony as the weakest human settlement in known space. The perfect target for beings who wanted to test human strength by attacking what they believed would be defenseless prey. The colonists slept peacefully that night, unaware that they were about to show the galaxy what humans could accomplish when they refused to give up. They would prove that being forgotten by the rest of humanity did not make them weak. It made them self-reliant, and that would make all the difference. Admiral Zexro stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human world grow larger on the main screen. His four eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he studied the pathetic settlement below. 20 Vorthan warships had dropped out of hyperspace around this forgotten planet, and the humans had no idea what was coming for them. The intelligence reports had been very clear about this target. Xinhua Colony had no military defenses, no orbital platforms, no fleet of warships to protect it. Just 3,000 weak humans mining crystals on a world that nobody else wanted. It would be the perfect demonstration of Vorthan superiority over the soft species that called itself humanity. Prepare landing forces. Zexros commanded his officers. We will show the galaxy how easily humans fall when faced with real warriors. The High Command wants a quick victory to demoralize other human colonies. This pathetic settlement will provide exactly what we need. His second-in-command studied the sensor readings. 20 ships against defenseless miners seems excessive, Admiral. Perhaps we should save most of our fleet for more challenging targets. Zexros laughed with the sound of breaking glass. Excessive? No. My friend, this is about sending a message. When word spreads that we destroyed an entire human colony in minutes, every other settlement will surrender without a fight. Fear is a weapon more powerful than plasma cannons down on the planet. Kim Yuna was checking inventory in the medical center when her communication device started screaming emergency alerts. The sound made her jump and drop a box of bandages across the floor. She had never heard the colony defense system activate because nothing had ever threatened Shinwa before. The alerts were coming from the ancient orbital sensors that barely worked on good days. Now they were detecting massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. Yuna grabbed her emergency kit and ran toward the command center, passing colonists who were starting to gather in the streets with worried expressions. At the command center, chaos was spreading like wildfire. Choi Sunho was frantically trying to get clear readings from sensors that were older than he was, while Lee Minho coordinated with the mining crews who were reporting strange lights in the sky. Commander Park Jinwoo stood at the main console watching data stream across screens that had not been used for emergencies in 5 years. "The readings are incredible," Sunho reported, his voice tight with stress. 20 large ships in orbital positions around our planet. Each one is bigger than anything in our database, and they are all powering weapon systems. Jinwoo felt his stomach drop as he realized their situation. The colony had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back against even one warship, let alone 20. They were miners and farmers and mechanics, not soldiers trained for battle. Their only protection had been their isolation, and now that was gone. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet," Minho announced from the communication station. "They are demanding our immediate surrender. They say we have 5 minutes to comply, or they will begin orbital bombardment." The command center fell, silent as everyone processed this information. 5 minutes to decide whether to give up everything they had built or face destruction from weapons they could not hope to match. Jinwoo looked at the faces around him and saw fear, but also something else, something that surprised him. "We should contact Earth Command," Yuna suggested, even though everyone knew help was weeks away. "Maybe they can negotiate or send military support." "There is no time for that," Jinwoo replied, studying the tactical display. "The nearest human fleet is 3 weeks away by the fastest ships. These aliens chose their target well. They know we are alone." More colonists were gathering outside the command center as word spread through the settlement. Families stood together, in small groups, talking quietly while children clung to their parents. People were scared, but they were not panicking. They had faced other emergencies together, and they would face this one. The same way, Sunho looked up from his sensor readings. "Commander, I am detecting energy buildups in their weapon systems. They are preparing to fire whether we surrender or not. This is not a negotiation. It is a test of strength." Jinwoo walked to the window and looked out at the colony he had protected for 5 years. The mining equipment was still running because the crews had not stopped working. The children were still playing in the streets because their parents were trying to keep things normal. The community center was opening early because people needed a place to gather. These aliens had made a mistake. They thought Shinwa Colony was weak because it had no military. They thought the colonists would surrender because they were not soldiers. They did not understand that 3,000 people, who had built a life together on a hostile world, were not going to give up without a fight. "Open a channel to the alien fleet." Jinwoo ordered, his voice calm and steady. "Commander, are you going to surrender?" Minho asked. Jinwoo smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "No, I am going to tell them something they need to hear." The communication channel opened with a burst of static, followed by harsh alien voices demanding immediate compliance. Admiral Zexros was broadcasting his ultimatum in multiple languages to make sure the humans understood their hopeless situation. "This is Commander Park Jinwoo of Shinwa Colony." Jinwoo spoke into the transmitter. "We have received your demand for surrender, and we have considered it carefully." "Excellent," the alien admiral replied, his voice full of satisfaction. "You have made the wise choice. Now prepare to evacuate your leadership to our ships for processing." "Actually," Jinwoo continued, "we have decided to decline your generous offer. If you want our colony, you are welcome to come down and take it." The communication channel went silent for several long seconds. The aliens had clearly not expected this response from what they thought was a defenseless settlement. Jinwoo could imagine the confusion on their ships as they tried to understand why humans were refusing to surrender. "You dare refuse the Vorthon Empire." Admiral Zexros finally responded, his voice filled with rage. "You have no weapons, no defenses, no hope of victory. This is madness." "Maybe," Jinwoo admitted. "But it is our madness and our choice. We built something good here, and we are not going to let you take it away." Xinhua Colony does not surrender around the command center. The other colonists were nodding in agreement. Yuna was preparing medical supplies for casualties. Sunho was checking the power systems that would be needed for whatever came next. Minho was coordinating with mining crews who were asking how they could help defend their home. The alien fleet began moving into attack positions as Admiral Zexros realized that his easy victory had just become complicated. These were not the frightened colonists he had expected to find. These were humans who were willing to fight back even when facing impossible odds. Prepare for orbital bombardment. The Admiral commanded his fleet. Target their power systems and communication arrays. We will show them the price of defying superior beings. On the planet below, the colonists of Xinhua were preparing for the fight of their lives. They were not soldiers, but they were survivors. They had learned to work together to solve problems and to never give up when things looked hopeless. Now they were about to teach the galaxy what those lessons were worth. The battle for Xinhua Colony was about to begin, and nobody knew what would happen next. The aliens expected an easy victory. The humans were determined to prove them wrong. In 15 minutes, everything would change forever. Admiral Zexros could not believe what his sensors were showing him. The human colony that should have been begging for mercy was somehow dodging his orbital bombardment. The energy beams from his warships were hitting empty ground where buildings should have been standing. It was like the colonists knew exactly where each attack would land. Fire on the power generation facility. He ordered his weapons officer destroy their ability to coordinate resistance. The massive plasma beam struck the location where intelligence reports said the main power plant was located. Instead of destroying critical infrastructure, the blast hit an empty field with nothing but mining equipment that had been abandoned hours earlier. The real power systems were hidden underground in tunnels that the Vorthon scanners had never detected. "This is impossible," Zexros muttered, staring at the tactical display. "How are primitive miners hiding from our most advanced targeting systems?" Down in the colony, the humans were moving like they had practiced this exact scenario for years. Lee Minho led teams of miners through underground tunnels that connected every major building in the settlement. These passages had been built over 5 years of expansion and improvement, turning the colony into a hidden fortress beneath the surface. "The aliens are targeting our surface installations just like we expected," Minho reported through his radio while moving through Tunnel Section 7. "All civilian families are safely in the deep shelters and our equipment is in position." Kim Yuna had converted the underground medical facility into a command center filled with equipment that looked nothing like standard medical devices. The heart monitors and scanning systems had been rebuilt to track movement and energy signatures across the entire planet. Now they were showing her the exact position of every alien ship in orbit, 20 warships spread across 3 orbital zones. She announced to the defense teams, "They are maintaining formation because they think we are helpless. This gives us targeting solutions for the response phase." Choi Sunho was in his workshop 3 levels below the surface, putting final adjustments on devices that had been built from mining equipment over the past several years. The pulse generators were ready to demonstrate what happened when human engineering met desperate creativity. The orbital bombardment continued for several minutes with the alien fleet targeting every structure that their intelligence reports had identified as important. Each blast hit empty buildings or decoy installations, while the real colony infrastructure remained hidden beneath tons of rock and soil. Commander Park Jinwoo watched the attack from a bunker that had been disguised as a storage facility. His screen showed camera feeds from across the colony surface, where alien energy beams were destroying nothing but empty shells. The real buildings were deeper underground, connected by tunnels that had taken years to complete. They are getting frustrated, Jinwoo observed as the bombardment pattern became more random. The aliens expected us to be destroyed by now. Instead, they are wasting ammunition on targets that do not matter. Above them, the first wave of alien dropships was launching from the Vorthan fleet. Admiral Zexros had decided that orbital bombardment was not working fast enough, and direct assault would finish the job. His ground forces were equipped with advanced weapons and armor that should easily overwhelm any resistance from mining colonists. The dropships entered the atmosphere like falling stars heading for landing zones around the main settlement. The Vorthan soldiers inside were confident that they would face minimal opposition from humans who had no military training or proper weapons. This would be more like policing than actual combat. Minho watched the alien landing craft approach through periscope systems built into the tunnel network. The dropships were heading for the exact locations that the colonists had prepared for them. Open areas that looked like good landing zones, but were actually carefully planned killing fields. First wave incoming. He reported to the other teams. 12. Dropships heading for zones Alpha through Delta just like we predicted. They are going to land right where we want them. The alien soldiers began deploying from their landing craft expecting to find frightened colonists hiding in damaged buildings. Instead, they found empty streets and an eerie silence that made their battlefield scanners useless. The colony appeared to be deserted, but something felt wrong about the situation. Vorthan squad leader Kex ordered his troops to advance toward the main settlement buildings. Their sensors were not detecting any human life signs, which should have been impossible in a colony of 3,000 people. Either the humans were all dead, or they were hiding in ways that Vorthan technology could not detect. That was when Lee Minho triggered the first surprise. The mining charges that had been placed beneath the landing zones were not ordinary explosives. Choi Sunho had spent months modifying them with crystal resonators that focused the blast energy in specific directions. When they detonated, the explosion channeled upward like a controlled earthquake, sending alien soldiers flying through the air. Direct hit on landing zone. Alpha Minho reported with satisfaction as he watched Vorthan troops scattered by an explosion that their armor could not protect against. Their equipment is not designed to handle seismic weapons. Kim Yuna activated the second phase of the colonial defense, the medical scanning systems that normally examined crystal formations had been converted into the most advanced tracking network on the planet. They could see through solid rock and metal, giving the colonists perfect information about alien positions. 12 more dropships landing on the eastern ridge, she announced while studying her displays. They are trying to surround us, but they do not know we can see everything they do. The Vorthan ground forces were discovering that fighting on Shinwa Colony was unlike any battle they had experienced. Before, the terrain seemed to fight against them with ground that collapsed without warning and hidden explosions that appeared from nowhere. Their communications were being disrupted by interference that made coordination impossible. Squad leader Kex tried to contact his command ship but received only static in response. Something was jamming their signals using methods that Vorthan military science did not recognize. The humans were supposed to be primitive miners, but they were fighting like they had years of experience in unconventional warfare. Admiral Zexros watched his ground assault encounter one problem after another. The landing zones kept exploding. His troops could not maintain communication, and the human settlement appeared to be defended by an invisible army that struck without warning. "How many humans are we fighting?" he demanded from his intelligence officer. "Unknown, Admiral," the officer replied, studying confused sensor readings. "We are detecting weapons fire and explosions, but no clear targets. Our forces are taking casualties from sources we cannot identify." The truth was that the colonists were using every advantage they had gained from 5 years of dangerous work in hostile conditions. They knew their planet better than any invader could, and they had turned everyday mining equipment into weapons that no military database contained information about. Choi Sunho prepared to activate the mining laser array that had been rebuilt as the colony's ultimate defensive weapon. 20. Individual laser systems designed to cut through asteroids were about to demonstrate what happened when peaceful tools were used for war. The battle for Shinwa Colony was entering its most critical phase. The aliens had expected easy victory against defenseless miners. Instead, they were facing opponents who refused to fight by conventional rules and who had turned their entire world into a weapon. Choi Soon-ho activated the mining laser array from his underground workshop and watched 20 separate beam systems focus their combined power on a single target in orbit. The lasers had been designed to cut through solid asteroids, but now they were aimed at the hull of a Vorthan warship that had moved too close to the planet. The alien vessel tried to raise its shields, but the combined laser beam punched through the energy barriers like they were made of paper. The warship exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the sky above Shinwa Colony, sending debris raining down on the mining fields below. One enemy ship destroyed, Soon-ho reported with calm satisfaction as he began targeting the next vessel. Their shields cannot handle concentrated mining beam energy. When you focus 20 industrial lasers on one point, even military armor becomes useless. Admiral Zexros stared in shock at the tactical display showing one of his most advanced warships reduced to floating wreckage by what intelligence reports had described as primitive human mining equipment. How were colonists with no military training destroying vessels that could level entire cities? Impossible, he muttered, while his bridge crew struggled to understand what they were witnessing. These humans have no advanced weapons, no military technology, no battle experience. They are just miners and farmers working with basic tools. His weapons officer was equally confused. Admiral, our sensors show the attack came from modified industrial equipment spread across multiple locations. The humans have somehow turned their entire mining operation into a defensive weapon system down on the planet. Lee Min-ho was coordinating the next phase of the colonial defense from Tunnel Control Center, Delta. The mining crews had spent years learning to work together in dangerous conditions, and now they were applying those same skills to combat operations. Third wave of dropships incoming, he announced to the defensive teams. 18 landing craft, heading for the northern mining complex. They think they can avoid our prepared positions by landing in the industrial zone. Kim Yuna studied her tracking displays and smiled grimly. The aliens were learning to avoid the obvious landing zones, but they did not know that the colonists had prepared surprises everywhere. The northern complex looked like it offered safe landing areas, but appearances could be very deceiving. Let them land, she advised, while checking the status of hidden systems throughout the mining area. When they discover what we have done to the processing equipment, they will wish they had stayed in orbit. The Vorthan dropships settled down between the large machines that processed raw crystals into refined products. The alien soldiers deployed in tight formations expecting to encounter human defenders, hiding among the industrial equipment. Instead, they found machinery that had been modified in ways their tactical manuals never covered. Squad leader Kex led his troops toward what appeared to be a standard crystal processing plant. The building looked like any other mining facility, but something felt wrong about the energy readings their scanners were detecting. The equipment inside was running, but no human workers were visible anywhere. Move forward carefully, he ordered his squad while checking his weapon systems. These humans are using tricks we do not understand. Expect anything. That was when Kim Yuna triggered the processing plant trap. The crystal refinement systems had been converted into massive electromagnetic pulse generators that could disrupt alien electronics from a distance. When activated, they sent waves of energy that made Vorthan equipment malfunction in spectacular ways. The alien soldiers found their weapons shutting down, their armor systems failing, and their communications going completely silent. The pulse had been designed to handle the electrical systems of mining equipment, but it worked even better on advanced military technology that relied on complex circuits. Direct hit on the northern landing force, Yuna reported as she watched alien troops stumbling around with useless equipment. Their armor is shutting down, and their weapons are not responding. The electromagnetic pulse is more effective than we hoped. Choi Soon-ho was busy targeting the second Vorthan warship with his rebuilt laser array. The alien fleet was trying to move out of range, but the mining lasers had been designed to track moving asteroids across vast distances. Avoiding them required faster movement than the large warships could manage. Second target locked, he announced, while adjusting the beam focus controls. These ships are too big to dodge industrial cutting equipment. Their size makes them perfect targets for weapons they never expected to face. The second warship tried to retreat, but 20 laser beams converged on its engine section, causing multiple explosions that sent the vessel spinning out of control. The Alien crew abandoned ship in escape pods rather than face the continued bombardment from weapons that should not have existed. 2 enemy ships destroyed, Sunho reported with growing confidence. 18 remaining vessels are pulling back to safer distances, but they cannot escape the range of mining equipment designed for asteroid work. Admiral Zexros was beginning to understand that his supposedly easy victory had become a nightmare scenario. The humans were not fighting like soldiers or using conventional military tactics. Instead, they were applying industrial knowledge to warfare in ways that made his advanced fleet vulnerable, order all remaining ships to maximum orbital distance, he commanded, while studying reports of massive casualties among his ground forces. These humans have turned their entire planet into a weapon. We need time to analyze their capabilities. But the colonists were not giving the aliens time to regroup. Lee Minho activated the final phase of the underground defense system. The mining tunnels that connected every part of the colony had been equipped with controlled collapse sequences that could create massive sinkholes anywhere on the surface. Underground demolition charges activated, he announced as sections of carefully weakened ground gave way beneath alien positions. The enemy troops are falling into mining shafts that we modified for defensive purposes. Their heavy armor makes it impossible for them to climb out. The Vorthon soldiers found themselves trapped in deep holes that had been disguised as solid ground. The mining crews had spent months preparing these traps using techniques learned from years of excavating dangerous terrain. Now alien invaders were discovering that the planet itself was fighting against them. Squad leader Kex tried to coordinate his scattered forces, but half his troops had fallen into hidden pits, while the other half were dealing with equipment failures caused by electromagnetic attacks. The humans were winning a battle that should have been impossible for them to survive. Kim Yuna was monitoring the underground water systems that had been converted into another defensive weapon. The pipes that normally carried processing chemicals to the refinement plants now transported scalding liquid that could flood any area of the colony's surface. Activating thermal flood systems she reported as superheated water erupted from hidden pipes beneath alien positions. The enemy soldiers cannot handle industrial temperatures that our equipment was designed to manage. The remaining Vorthon ground forces found themselves facing attacks from below, above, and all around them. The peaceful mining colony had become a hostile environment where every piece of equipment was a potential weapon, and every tunnel was a trap, waiting to be sprung. Admiral Zexros realized that his invasion had failed completely in ways that military science could not explain. The humans had not defeated his forces with superior technology or better training. They had won by refusing to fight according to the rules that civilized warfare was supposed to follow. Prepare for full retreat. He ordered his remaining ships. We have underestimated these humans in ways that will require complete tactical re-evaluation, but the battle was not over yet. The colonists still had more surprises waiting for any aliens foolish enough to remain in their system. The Vorton fleet retreated from HFY Colony exactly 15 minutes after Admiral Zexros had ordered the first attack. The remaining 18 warships limped away from the planet with damaged hulls and confused crews who could not understand how they had been defeated by mining equipment operated by people who were not even soldiers. Admiral Zexros stood on his bridge staring at the tactical display that showed 2 of his most advanced warships reduced to floating debris. His ground forces were either trapped in mining tunnels or scattered across the planet with broken equipment. The humans had achieved something that military experts would have called impossible. Send a message to High Command. He ordered his communications. Officer, tell them that the human colony was not as defenseless as our intelligence report suggested. We need to completely reassess our understanding of human capabilities. Down on the planet, the colonists emerged from their underground positions to survey the aftermath of the shortest war in galactic history. Lee Minho climbed out of Tunnel 7 and looked across the mining fields where alien wreckage was scattered between the crystal processing equipment. Well, that was more exciting than usual, he said to Kim Yuna, who was checking the medical center for any damage. The building had survived the battle without a scratch, because the real medical facilities were deep underground, where orbital bombardment could not reach them, Commander. Park Jinwoo walked through the colony streets where children were already playing again, while their parents discussed the amazing events they had just witnessed. The community center was opening for an early dinner, because people wanted to gather. and share their experiences from the battle. Choi Sun-ho was in his workshop examining the mining laser array that had destroyed 2 alien warships. The equipment was still in perfect working condition and ready to resume its normal job of cutting through asteroids. The only difference was that everyone now knew it could also cut through alien armor. The colony emergency communication system, activated as Earth Command, finally responded to the battle reports that had been transmitted during the fighting. Commander Park, this is Admiral Chen at Earth Military Headquarters. Please confirm your previous transmission. Did you say your colony was attacked by 20 alien warships? Confirmed, Admiral Jinwoo replied, while looking out at the peaceful mining fields where normal work was already resuming. We were attacked by a Vorthan fleet at approximately 1400 hours. The threat has been neutralized with no human casualties. There was a long pause before Earth Command responded again. Commander, please clarify what you mean by neutralized. Did you receive military assistance from another fleet? Negative, Admiral. We use standard colony equipment for defensive purposes. The alien fleet has retreated and we are requesting cleanup. Assistance for debris removal in our orbital space. The response from Earth was immediate confusion, followed by demands for detailed reports about exactly how a mining colony had defeated 20 military warships using industrial equipment. Admiral Chen wanted video recordings, technical specifications, and complete tactical analysis. Kim Yuna was treating Choi Sun-ho for minor burns on his hands from handling overloaded laser controls, while Lee Min-ho had twisted his ankle running through the tunnels, but those were the only injuries suffered by the human defenders. The alien forces had taken heavy casualties without inflicting any serious damage on the colonists. News of the victory spread through human space faster than government communications could control it. Independent traders and commercial vessels carried the story to every human settlement in the galaxy. The weakest colony in human space had just defeated a major alien invasion, using nothing but mining tools and clever thinking. The Vorthan High Command Admiral Zexros delivered his report to military leaders who found his account difficult to believe. The humans had not used advanced weapons or superior technology. They had simply applied industrial knowledge to warfare, in ways that made conventional military tactics useless. These colonists are not soldiers or warriors in any traditional sense, Zexros explained to the assembled commanders. They are problem solvers who refuse to accept defeat. Every human settlement may appear vulnerable, but they are all potentially capable of defending themselves in ways we cannot predict. The implications of the Xinhua victory reached far beyond one small mining colony. Other alien empires that had been planning attacks on human space began reconsidering their strategies. The humans had demonstrated that even their weakest settlements could turn everyday equipment into devastating weapons. Lee Min-ho returned to his normal mining duties the next day, though he kept one of the modified explosive charges as a souvenir from the battle. The crystal formations in Tunnel 7 still needed to be extracted and processed regardless of what had happened with alien invaders. Kim Yuna went back to treating routine medical problems and conducting research, but she also started training other colonists in tactical medicine and emergency response procedures. The battle had shown that everyone needed to be prepared for situations that no one expected. Choi Sun-ho continued, maintaining the colony equipment and making improvements based on what he had learned during the fighting. The mining laser array received some upgrades that would make it even more effective if other aliens decided to test human resolve. Commander Park Jinwoo still stood on his office balcony in the evenings looking at the distant mountains, but now he knew that his people could handle whatever challenges the galaxy might send their way. They had proven that humans did not need the most advanced technology to protect what they valued. The attack on Xinhua Colony became a turning point in galactic politics. Military academies studied the battle as an example of how conventional forces could be defeated by unconventional tactics. Trade agreements were renegotiated as alien governments realized that human colonies were more valuable as partners than as conquest targets. Within weeks of the battle, Xinhua Colony received its first official visit from Earth government representatives, who wanted to understand how a forgotten mining settlement had achieved such an impressive military victory. The delegation was surprised to find that the colonists had already returned to their normal routine of extracting crystals and maintaining equipment. The victory had not changed the daily life of the colony very much. People still woke up before sunrise, worked hard all day, and gathered in the evening to share meals and stories. The only difference was that everyone now knew they could depend on each other when facing impossible odds. Admiral Zexros filed his final report with a warning that would be studied by military strategists across the galaxy. Humans are not defined by their technology or their weapons, he wrote. They are defined by their refusal to give up and their ability to find solutions to any problem. Every human colony should be considered potentially dangerous, regardless of its apparent military capabilities. The colonists of Shinwa had won their battle, not because they were stronger or smarter than their enemies, but because they understood something that the aliens had missed. Working together and never giving up were more powerful than any weapon that technology could create. Commander Park Jinwoo received a medal from Earth Command and offers to transfer to more important positions, but he declined them all. Shinwa Colony was his home, and these people were his family. The galaxy now knew that humans could defend themselves, but more importantly, they knew that some things were worth fighting for. The 15-minute war was over, but its lessons would echo through space for generations to come.